So this movie, it's something that on one hand, it's so amazing to see what is the first studio movie with a black female
Yeah.
lead as a cop.
Right.
And on the other hand, it's so embarrassing that it's taken this long for this movie to come out in
Say it.
2019.
Yeah.
Say
So,
it.
what was it like to be in charge of something that is so important and something that, frankly, should have been made decades ago?
You know what, man? I don't know, man. I was just saying earlier that, and I'm so happy you're bringing that to the light. I was just saying earlier, man, that this movie is a product of what I'm going to call like the perfect storm. Someone had a screenplay, Peter Dowling, which was absolutely incredible screenplay. But I don't think anyone was aware until I read it and pointed out, hey, this is the first time we're going to ever see a police officer that's African American in the lead, as a lead in the film. And then I think everyone was kind of like, what? And I was like, yeah, and that's why we got to do it right. And the casting from there, you know, obviously being blessed, man, to be able to get someone like Naomi Harris. What she does in this film is prolific. How she goes about playing the character Alicia, the moments that she's finding, the way that she's actually interacting with the audience without even having words, and playing off of Tyrese, who basically represents the entire culture in the movie. I think it's a special movie, man. And then when you match those performances with like the lighting and the camera work of Dante Spinotti,
and the directing of Deon.
Yeah, and I'm like in the back, man.
Yeah,
and, I mean, you get something.
back.
You get something to me that a lot of people sit down and watch and can't put their finger on why it's so incredible. And it's because all of those moments are working, and all of those things are not written, and all of those moments that you're seeing in the movie are unconventional, right? A lot of times critics have an amazing eye in terms of watching things that are conventional and formulating things and saying, oh, it has to have this and then have that. And we live in a world right now where all the rules have been broken. All of them. We're in a world right now for a critic to write where you call the police for something to happen and the police come kill you, right? So now what you have to do is you have to actually make a film that speaks directly to that audience. And when you make films that speak to that audience, they have to be unconventional, and they have to be hard to watch at times, and they have to be exhilarating, and they have to have all the energy around the chase scenes. And then in the middle of the chase scenes, you got to say something and then quickly turn it down, then bring it back up, because this audience is used to watching stuff for 21 seconds, right? So that doesn't always formulate with what people or critics are beginning to write. They're like, well, I wonder why you didn't, No, this is for an audience of people that are being really messed up right now, man. And I am part of that audience, and Tyrese is part of that audience. So making a movie like this is a huge slam dunk for someone like Sony. It's a bigger slam dunk for me as an African-American filmmaker. And it's an even bigger slam dunk for someone like Tyrese and Naomi Harris to be able to participate in it and bring their amazing talent into a film like this.
One thing I will say is, and I'm gonna take a bit of a deep dive on this because the viewers of your website, I really want them to make the decision, because this is your movie. This is your movie. This is a movie that puts you in the front seat at the dinner table to see and experience the Black experience, the ghetto, the inner city, the vulnerabilities like you've never seen before this movie. Couple of obvious things on this deep dive I want to point out. You would expect cameras being on every single cell phone, cameras now being in every car, cameras being on every corner to create a safer environment. But shit has gotten worse. It's gotten more crazy. It's almost like people are trying to trump each other, pun intended, to see what levels of dysfunction we can take things up to. And at any point that you get so used to your routine, so used to not being Black, where you lose touch with the reality of what's actually going on because it's not at your door every day, to me, you're a part of the problem. You should never get to a place where you say, you know, it's really sad to see what they are dealing with. Because you've never had anyone in your family to deal with human and sex trafficking doesn't mean you should be out of touch and not care. Because no one in your family has mental health issues, you should never not care. Because you don't have HIV/AIDS in your house or you don't have it, you should not be desensitized to what's going on. And being black in America is vulnerable, more vulnerable than it's ever been, because even with the cameras capturing the corruption, the excessive force, the abuse of power, the political cover-ups, the scams, the bullshit, it hasn't stopped it. It hasn't discouraged it. And that's why this movie means as much as it means to me and to us. And in closing, when I think about Eric Garner, when I think about Tamir Rice, when I think about Trayvon Martin, when I think about Biggie Smalls, when I think about Nipsey Hussle, Biggie Smalls' mom will never be able to say happy birthday to her son, ever. And there's documentaries that have clearly said that the police had something to do, allegedly, with killing Biggie Smalls. But there's never been a trial, there's never been anything, and the murder to this day is unsolved. And this is why this movie matters as much as it does. And when you show up for this movie, when you help us to make the statement that we want to make from this movie being #1 for 3 weeks and killing it all across the board, more movies that are on topic that matter to us will be made. Because Hollywood will say, wow, look how well this movie did. This must be an audience out there that want to see more movies like this made. So what you're going to write about this movie, what you write in the headlines, it's going to create the traffic and the clickbait that we need in order for this thing to have the traction that we need. And so as much as we made this movie for us, we relying on you to help us to be successful. So thank you in
Thank you, brother.
advance.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah.